there, lovely listeners, and welcome back to Reasons to Care, the podcast all about heartwarming stories and making a difference with Diverse Abilities, Dorset's disability charity. I'm Claire, one of the managers in our children's team.
And I'm Michelle, a Deputy Manager in Supported Living. We're kicking off 2025 with a chat with a lovely lady called Wendy. For those of you who've not come across Wendy before, she's the daughter of our charity's founder, Phyllis, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that soon.
Indeed, I'm sure we will. This year we're celebrating 70 years of Diverse Abilities, and we thought why not link that up with this podcast and have a chat about where we started.
It sounds like there's lots of exciting things lined up this year in celebration. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. And of course, if you're inspired about working in care, listening to the podcast, don't forget you can check out our career vacancies online at any time at diverseabilities.org.uk/careers. So welcome, Wendy. Lovely to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
Wendy, can you take us back to the very start of Diverse Abilities, which I know was obviously 70 years ago?
70 years ago. Yes, well, my sister, unfortunately, had to go into care. My mum and dad were very upset about that. And Mum kept thinking, why isn't anybody doing anything for anybody who's got disabilities these days? And she kept on thinking about it, and she did get in touch with the secretary of the National Spastic Society. I know it's a word we don't use now, but that's what it was all those years ago. Yeah. And he gave us some advice, and she thought, what can I do? Why isn't anybody doing anything? And then she suddenly thought, hang on a minute, why am I not doing anything? Mm-hmm. So she put the letter into the Echo asking families with spastic children if they wanted to form a support group. And she waited, and nothing happened. She said, oh, okay, she was a bit disappointed. And then suddenly she thought, well, we're going to put the advert in again. And my dad said, you must be crazy. You must be mad. Nobody's interested. My mum, being my mum, was nothing ventured, nothing gained, put it in, and 9 people answered that letter.
Wow. She hadn't put it in?
Yeah. And so that was the start of it all. And so she managed to get in touch with the secretary in London, and she said she'd got these 9 people. He couldn't possibly come down to Bournemouth and interview 9 people. It had to be at least 30, 40 people. But fortunately, they all got in touch with other people. There was even a physiotherapist from what was then Boscombe Hospital was involved. And they got together 30 to 40 people. And he came down and he, spoke to them and said all bits and pieces and what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And it just developed from there. And as Mum said, those 9 people were the basis of the charity that we have now, because they all got together with other people. And I can't remember how long, it wasn't long after, they managed to get the room in Madeira Road, which is near the Bournemouth Police Station. Oh, yeah. And they had a care centre there, which opened 2 days a week for children to go in, a lot of them were babies, and to be cared for. And everything was done voluntary. Nobody was paid for anything. It was all done voluntarily. Wow. And that was the start of it all.
And I guess that must have been quite different, because in those times, that kind of wasn't the done thing, was it? It was more normal for, if you had a child with a disability, for them to go into a home straight away at birth sometimes, and almost be kept very separate from the world. So what your mum did was actually really quite, I would say, like revolutionary, really.
It was groundbreaking
really
at that time.
Changed the way that things were done.
Well, on that score, the place where Marilyn went was Cold East Hospital, which is near Southampton. It's Salisbury, Southampton. And my dad was amazed. He couldn't believe how many children there were in this villa. And so he spoke to one of the staff about it. She said, that's just the tip of the iceberg. You want to see all the ones that are actually shut away and nobody sees. But that was in the 1950s.
And that's how things were done. And it's amazing now to see that actually things have changed so much. But for you must feel very proud of your family.
Oh, absolutely.
To have been part of that change.
Oh, I say it's amazing. It's incredible. And it just means a lot to me that so many people have been helped over the years. And there was nothing for us years ago, nothing at all. We just had to get on with it. And you just did, because that's all you could do. You just get on with it, you just sort of, that was what life was about. I mean, people were very supportive, and it wasn't all sadness, but there obviously was an awful lot of sadness as well as, but it's just grown and grown and grown, and it's just amazing.
What was the age difference between you and Marilyn?
I was 6 years old when Marilyn was born, so I was 11 when she went away.
And how was Marilyn as a sister?
Oh, she was lovely. I mean, it wasn't a problem. I mean, because my mum was advised by so-called authorities, you should let your daughter go away because everyone else is suffering because you're spending all your time with her. I can honestly say I never felt like that. I really didn't. We just wanted, Marilyn to be all right. You just helped her. She was slow in coming forward, but eventually she did learn to walk. She learned a few words, but not many at all. She was very hyperactive. But Mum's health was beginning to suffer a little bit. There had been, I can remember, both my grandfathers passed away during this time as well as, and that was when my dad's father passed away. We went, this is just an example of me and Marilyn, and we obviously, because we all came down, we all lived in Brighton.
Yeah.
Mum and Dad and myself were born in Brighton. And we went down, and I can remember sleeping on the floor with Marilyn, putting my arms and legs around her to keep her quiet and encouraging her to go to sleep, because she was all over the place and, didn't want to go to sleep. And then after the funeral, my gran came back to live with us on the understanding that she would help my mum look after my Marilyn and me, really, after both of us. But sadly, that wasn't to be, because she hadn't been with us very long, and she ended up in hospital, and sadly she passed away, and she was only 62. Oh, that was really sad.
That must have been an awful lot for your mum as well to have to deal with, but yet she still kept fighting.
Oh, yeah.
And she still kept going
she did
what was right for Marilyn, as well as you as a family.
Yeah. Well, the other story is that, another story is that when she was trying to form the group and what have you, I mean, we weren't a family with money. All right, my dad had an inheritance, so we managed to have our own bungalow, but we didn't have a telephone. And the nearest telephone was about half a mile down the road. So Mum used to go down there and phone people, and then she'd get back home and say, "Oh, I didn't ring so-and-so." So she'd walk all the way back down there again.
Wow. It's just, we don't have that in this day and age, do we? It's just we have everything at our fingertips.
Yes.
And I think, if I'm right in saying, when the charity was formed and what have you, I've got a feeling that the charity helped put in a telephone. So Mum and Dad had a telephone in their bungalow, so they could, do all their telephoning from there.
So the first building then, I guess, that was that room, that care centre. What happened next? Where did it then evolve?
Then they obviously realised that there were more children around, and not children but adults as well, but at that time they were just, basically on children, and they realised they needed somewhere else for them to go, and they managed, with the help, I think, of a trust, it'll come to me in a minute what the name of the trust was, they managed to get the land in Langside Avenue.
Right.
And Langside School was built. But the story there was that the dads, at weekends and in the evenings, they were the ones that went down there to dig the foundations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was all very much, and it was later in life, it was sold to me as an extended family, but it did all become, which I'm sure you must realise as well, as it becomes an extended family. You sort of get to know people, and you rely on people, and they rely on you, and
you build that network around you. And how lovely to not only have that network that are going through the same experience as you, but you're actually all doing it for the same reason. Yeah, it must have been amazing to be part of.
But sadly, Marilyn was in care until she was 30. She was 30 when she came back to Bournemouth. She was 30 years old, but she coped within reason. She coped. She just got on with life, really. She just, when the first villa that she was in was all people, youngsters of her age, and we just assumed she did because she wasn't verbal. She just used to look forward to her visits from her parents. Parents being told, put her away and forget about her, but no, they didn't. And they used to go once a fortnight. And most times I used to go with them, not all the time, but most times. But actually, because it was an institution, you had to sign in at the gate. So I used to have to hide under a blanket in the back of the car because I wasn't supposed to be in there because I wasn't old enough.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. To be able to just see your sister. I couldn't imagine
No.
not being able to just visit my sister when I wanted to.
No, me neither.
Wow.
Just shows like how far we have come. Like,
yeah, but equally, even now we're still developing and growing and finding different ways of doing things. And even in my time working in care, we talk of the good old days, like, oh, can you remember when we used to do this? It wouldn't be allowed now. And even in that really short space of 20 years that I've been working in care, the difference is incredible, let alone now hearing, back 70 years, how far the care system has come and how it's changed and become more person-centred and...
For the person. Yeah, exactly. Person-centred for the person. It's crazy.
So I guess over this long period of time, you must have some amazing memories. Have you got any that would really stand out to you that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, dear.
Put you on the spot a little bit.
Not so much when Marilyn was away, because that was part and parcel of routine. You just did it every other Sunday, went to see Marilyn. Sometimes she was pleased to see us, sometimes not so. Later on in life, when she was in late teens, early 20s, she moved to Sherborne. There's one memory there, but I'll share that later. But yes, one nice, really good memory. As I say, Marilyn was 30 years old when she went into Edward House. And as you know, Edward House was Edward House because it was named after my parents, because their surname was Edwards, that was brilliant. And that was a very proud moment for the family.
I can imagine.
And
I actually didn't know that story.
Didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Because it was before my time.
Yes,
I knew it was
yeah.
Edward House, but I didn't know
that
why.
was a really... And it wasn't that easy for Mum and Dad to get Marilyn here, because I think the reasoning was Edward's house was in Poole, but Mum and Dad lived in Bournemouth, and there was the usual...
Sounds about right.
But eventually they did get there after a few tears and what have you, and Marilyn was then Mum and Dad could go and pick Marilyn up from Edward House and take them back to their bungalow. And she loved this. She went in, she looked round, and she saw some wedding photographs, and she was looking at it. And my mum said to her, "Who's that then?" And in her own way, she said, "My sister."
Oh.
And so she pointed to my then husband and said, "Well, but then it's a man." And that's so nice. So yeah.
And it must have been so lovely for her to be able to come home.
Yes.
And for your parents, but also for you as well. To have her really
back,
close
yes,
by.
Yeah.
And
It was so much nicer.
Yeah.
It really was, yes.
It was just part of your family, isn't it? So you don't have to travel, because that was a long way you were travelling. To then have her back in county. And she flourished after
Absolutely.
Edward House.
There's a photograph of her, which if you haven't seen, you will in the future. And it was taken, it just happens that where Mum and Dad lived, there was a family opposite them, and they obviously had a daughter who had problems. You all know who the daughter is, but I won't mention any names now. And there was that connection, and that the daughter went to Langside School, and for whatever reason, I can't remember why, probably was a function or something at Edward House, and he took a photograph of Marilyn. And there's this lovely photograph. It's almost like, I'm home now. This is my home. Yeah, it's lovely, lovely photograph.
Oh,
I'm sure you've all seen it along the line, but
yeah, very lovely. So Wendy, obviously years later down the line, can you tell us how you're involved with diverse abilities? What's your role?
Always the charity's always been part of my life. The first jumble sale they had, somebody managed to hire a hall and had this jumble sale and raised £50. And in those days, that was a lot of money. Suddenly, they've got money in the bank. I was about 14 then, I think. And I helped. I'll get somewhere along the line. There is a photograph as well of that. But in my innocence, I thought, all this money will help. And there won't be so many children born with disabilities. That's how I've, in the beginning, very beginning. But obviously, that wasn't to be. But that's how I thought about it. But that's, and the fundraising went on. And, obviously, I was at school. Wasn't quite so involved because I had my own things to do at school and what have you. And then left school, got a job. Still went, so you used to go with Mum to see Marilyn from time to time, not every time, but from time to time. There's somewhere along the line, Mum saw this advert in the paper about training to be a nurse. And that's what I did, but I didn't dream as a youngster of training to be a nurse, but that's what I did.
So did you actually work as a nurse, did you?
Yeah, I trained at Poole Hospital.
Do you think that your experience of having Marilyn kind of pushed you in that direction?
It probably not. I never thought of it like that, but I just think I probably had that caring instinct in my mind, and just that's what I did. And so then I'm trying to think. No, Marilyn came home a few times, and not very often. It wasn't convenient for Marilyn to come home. She did come home one Christmas, but that wasn't very successful. It wasn't, it didn't work very well. And I suppose it wasn't until later on, or when when in Edward House, they used to have fundraising events. Tuesday was the evening that the parents used to meet up, and sometimes they would be coffee evenings, and we'd have stalls and what have you, and I got involved with that. And then sometimes on a Saturday, they'd have something or other, so got involved in that. And then I suppose got more involved when Marilyn transferred into supported living, because you are more involved then. Because I spent more time with Marilyn then, going to the bungalow and sorting things out and what have you. And yes, just it's sort of part of my life that you sort of you just didn't know anything else really.
Yeah. I totally understand. It's exactly the same for me. It's just if anybody asks kind of why I did something or where I'd been, or it was always because I was doing it because of Anna. I grew up helping to fundraise at the home that she used to go to respite for, and then ended up working there. When it just is so ingrained in your life.
It's just there. It's part and parcel of your life.
Yeah, it forms a part of who you are, doesn't it? So you go and help at the Beehive, do you?
I do. Yeah. I haven't, because of what happened in December when perhaps you don't know this. I had unfortunately had a fall and fractured my femur, and obviously wasn't driving, and obviously mobility was a bit restricted, and Eric's mobility is not good now, so that's another story. So I haven't been, but I pop in from time to time and say hello to them all. But prior to that, yes, I thought years and years ago, somebody said about making some sensory cushions for the guys, and I thought, well, that's something I can do. So I went and spoke to whoever was the manager at the time there, and we formed a sewing group, and we just got on with it. Staff joined in, guys joined in, we made things. Then I started going once a week, and it became a more regular thing. And then we had COVID. I know I'm jumping a few years, but we had COVID, and obviously everything stopped.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I got a phone call from Chelsea. Wendy, we've got the ability of using the church hall. So, and the guys that you were in your sewing group go there. Would you like to go? Yes, fine.
Yeah.
And we had great fun, making things, deciding what we're going to make, finding material and what have you. And yes, and going back prior to that, Mum was always involved in charity work, in working on the stall, when bric-a-brac stall and what have you. There were other people that had stuff, and we used to do that. Yes, and I did a few at Langside School, because Langside School used to have the Christmas fair.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and I used to go along and help on that score and what have you.
And I hear you also did something very amazing for your 80th birthday. Do you want to tell us about that?
Well, I'll tell you what I did for my 70th birthday.
Oh, okay, go on then. I missed one out.
Yeah.
My 70th birthday, I did a skydive.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about this.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're a braver lady than me, Wendy.
I decided I wanted to do something, and I actually wanted to do it on my birthday, which fell on a Friday that year. And actually, Marilyn came to watch. One of her support workers brought her up to watch, and quite a few from Langside, from the Beehive, because it was Barnabas then, came up to watch as well as. And that was amazing, yes.
How incredible.
Yes.
How did it feel like? It must have been like falling, obviously, doing the skydive, but looking down and seeing that all of those people were there to support you.
Well,
you were almost doing it for them.
It was quite a long day. And when you actually get there, they call you into a room to so-called give you training. With the training being watching a video. And I'm so glad I did, because it showed you that when you actually leave the plane, you actually turn turtle. Now, if I hadn't known that, I might have been a bit scared.
Yeah.
But I knew that. People who had already done it prior to me said, Wendy, don't close your eyes. Keep your eyes open to watch. And it was just amazing. And as I say, it had been a long day. And I actually went in the aeroplane with a guy. And the guy, being a gentleman, said, ladies first. So I got on first. And we got up to 1,000 feet or whatever it is. And out he went. And then the weather came in. And I couldn't get out. So they went round and round and up a bit further. So when it did clear up, I was at 15,000 feet. Oh gosh. And came out. No, it was amazing. And they were brilliant. People that did it, with me, that you've got somebody on your back and you've got somebody taking photographs. And my younger daughter put on Facebook, I don't know how Mum did it. My elder daughter watched the video and said, well, if you'd have seen the guy on her back, you'd know why she did it.
No, I'm still out.
Yeah,
And they show you and they tell you how to get land on and it was amazing. It was really was good. Yeah.
Wow.
And then that wasn't enough.
No.
So 10 years later.
Yeah, I thought, well, in between times I had done other things as well, as I think. But yes, I decided I would abseil down the Spinnaker Tower, something I wanted to do. It's something I had
Yeah, wow.
And we went, Eric and I spent a weekend there prior to find out what it was all about and what have you. And we went up in the tower and what have you. Yeah, I've got to do this. It's no good. So, yeah.
I bet your holidays and things, Wendy, are never quiet. They're not a lay at the beach type sort of.
No, we usually do something or other. I can't think of an example. But
I'll just have an abseil for my age.
Yeah. I was hoping at the time that somebody who was associated with diverse abilities was going to get a group to do it, but in the end that fell by the by. It didn't happen. And I couldn't do it on my birthday because my birthday was at the weekend.
Right.
And they don't do it also. Whichever way round it was, I couldn't do it on my birthday, so I did it 10 days later, actually. But it was brilliant. Several of my friends came, different people came to watch and what have you. And
have you got plans for any other birthdays? Have you got anything else you want to do? Or
there's one other thing I would do. And funnily enough, Simon, who was at the awards last week, said, "Wendy, are you going to do another skydive on your next birthday?" Well, I don't think so, Simon.
I think I know what you're not going to do. Wing walking, are you?
Oh no, I wouldn't.
I was going to say.
No. The one thing I would like to do is, and I know they've done it before years ago, is abseil into Wales, the longest abseil.
Oh, yes.
I'd quite like to do that. I think that would be quite good.
It's like in the pits, isn't it?
Oh, over the quarry.
It's got the longest zip wire.
Yes.
In this country, yeah.
Interestingly, one of the ladies who works at Lily's place, she said she'd do it if she got sponsored. So maybe we need to put you together.
Got a little team, yeah, definitely.
Don't tell her I said that because it was a throwaway comment. But we'll hold her to it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, wow.
Can I just say one thing, though? In latter years, Mum was the founder. And yes, she appreciated the 9 people that helped. But she said, really and truthfully, Marilyn was that founder. Because if it hadn't been for Marilyn, it wouldn't. And I was talking to John Seaward one day, having a conversation, and he said to me, "Wendy, let's face it, if it wasn't for Marilyn, we wouldn't be having this conversation, the same as here. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation." True. And
started she was a lot, didn't she? Really, when you think of it.
That's a really lovely way. I'd never thought of it like that before, but it's a really lovely way to think of it.
Yeah,
one lady with a massive footprint in history, legacy.
But you came across Marilyn.
I did,
didn't you?
Yeah, very briefly though.
Yeah.
So I think when I joined the Beehive, Marilyn was there, maybe.
She might, because over the years, several times Marilyn was poorly and she was in hospital, and she did get better. There was one occasion when the consultant was speaking to Mum and I, and we could tell by his attitude that it wasn't good. And she had something else wrong with her, but she also had double pneumonia. And we thought, and a neighbour happened to be there, and she took Mum home. I stayed and helped settle her down, and thought, okay. Mum actually said goodbye to her. I went home, and the following morning, when she was in hospital, I liked to get up and go and make sure she was all right. And I got up to the hospital, and she was sitting up in bed, drinking a cup of tea, saying, "Where's my mummy?"
Oh, bless.
But every time she was poorly, she went downhill quite rapidly, but then she'd come up, but not quite as much. No.
I never got the honour of seeing her in supported living, though.
No,
I've heard so many stories, but never.
Yeah, there's lots of those going around. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, she was. And if anyone you talk to now who looked after Marilyn in the past would say, yeah, she was definitely the boss. You couldn't get away with anything. If she didn't like it, she would let you know. She would definitely.
I'll say good honour, to be fair, though. Yeah. Was she like that when she was younger as well?
I suppose she was to a certain extent. She was obviously determined to do things, but because of her disability, she wasn't able to do them. You know, walking was always a problem with her, but eventually she did get there. And feeding was another problem, but she learned to tuck her thumb under the spoon so that she could feed herself, different things like that.
She was obviously very determined to find a way to be able to do what she wanted to do.
Oh, yeah. And that continued. And especially when, she loved Edward House. Edward House was brilliant. She, everything went well there. Then they went into supported living, and Mum was very dubious as to whether this was the right thing or not. And that was when it was sold to me that, well, it's like an extended family. And there was one occasion when Marilyn was supposed to be going home to see Mum, and she took her coat off and she sat down and she refused to get in the car. Oh. And the person who was looking after her tried to, she didn't want to. Mum said, she's not happy. She doesn't like it here. And I said, no, Mum, that's Marilyn telling you, I like it here. You come and visit me in my bungalow.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was what it'd say to me, 100%. Don't want to move.
I was just going to say, my thanks go to everyone, not just you here, but everyone that worked in diverse abilities, and prior to that, the names of the charity had several names over the years. Everyone's been amazing, and we wouldn't be here now if they hadn't helped us over these. All right, staff's changed. It does. That's life, isn't it? It changes. But it's just amazing. And I take my hat off to everybody, because it's not an easy job. We know it's not an easy job. And, the tasks that you have to do and the things you have to go through, I'm just so grateful. And the tree house to me is, it's not the be all and end all, because it won't be, but it's just, we didn't have that in the 1950s. And now I know that families are being looked after. It's not just the children, their brothers and sisters and everything. It's amazing. So I'm so, so grateful for everything.
I always feel like Diverse Abilities is like a big dysfunctional family. And everybody that's been part of that family over the last 70 years has somehow played their part in building where we are today. And I think that's something really special,
I
isn't
think
it?
everybody has had a special part as well. Like you say, whether it's been a 6 months to 10, 20, 30 years, we've all played a part.
Absolutely.
Very special place to be.
So thank you very much, Wendy, for joining us today. What a legacy to create and be part of. Things have changed so much in 70 years, haven't they? As a charity, we're always working really hard to make sure people with disabilities are accepted and prepared for the world. And while we know things still aren't perfect, we've certainly come a long way to a more accepting place.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And while we may feel like we're just doing our jobs day to day, but actually it's all part of this bigger picture of acceptance and visibility for disabilities.
I think that probably needs a whole other episode, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely.
And a box of tissues.
I didn't get like you until after I actually read.
I don't know.
Yes, I'm pretty much
I know how you feel, because sometimes when I'm talking to other people and it gets to me, I sort of have to stop me. It's a emotional thing, isn't it?
It's really emotional. And today, I feel like I've had a window open to a world that I know I'm part of the journey, and I know some of the journey, I know some of the history, but I don't know it all. And now I feel like I've been opened up to the family history, and it's made me feel really emotional because...
Well, you've been there as well.
Exactly, because some of the things you were saying, I can totally echo. Times were very different when I was going through it, but actually, essentially, when you strip it down, the core of it is exactly the same. It's just our family. We just get on with it. It's just what we do.
And from my point, like, I had quite a hectic morning this morning.
Yes.
But so then, and you almost forget, and then you come into something like this, and you're like, actually, this is why we do it. Like, this is 100% why it was a hectic day, and why I was maybe a bit frustrated with a staff member, but definitely.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for these podcasts, us recording them. They're almost a bit cathartic.
They are.
In that, like, it's that always that reminder. It always reminds me of why we do what we do, but even more so.
Yeah.
Even more so today. So every episode, we take a note from our happy jar. So, Michelle, do you want to take yours?
I will. So I have the proud board. What have you done today to make you feel proud? The singing switch. And seeing all the lovely children and their achievements every day. Claire, this is definitely one of yours.
It is. And it was actually me that made the board. So I, one day, was running a weekend shift with one of my colleagues. And I said to her, we need to make a proud board, because it had come about because one of the young people we supported that attended Project My Time had done a skydive. And we had to raise money for diverse abilities. And we were so proud of him. And I was like, we need to make a proud board. And as always with me, I always have to take it one step too far. So we made this lovely big proud board display with lots of different children on. So we'd had children that had said their first words, maybe tried a new food, obviously the young man who'd done the skydive for us. And then I was like, we need that song. You know that song? What have you done today to make you feel proud? I think, is it Heather Small? I was like, we need it on a switch so that the children can press it and then look at the proud board. So we found an old switch that we had, recorded the song onto it, and then stuck it to the the proud board. So every time someone walked past and pressed it, Heather Small was like, what have you done today to make yourself feel proud? And then all of the pictures of the children and all their achievements were on this board.
I love it, but can you actually listen to the song anymore?
Every time I hear that song, it literally transports me back to that shift and how much fun we had, because we had all the children helping us make the board and decorate it and drawing pictures and things to go on it. And it just takes me back to such a happy time when I was a team leader at Lily's. And yeah, I love it.
Do you have a proud board anymore?
We don't actually, no. The proud board went, I think, when we did the redevelopment of Smithers into Lily's place, and it hasn't come back, not yet. Maybe one day.
You never know, it might do.
So I have got Sue and Ian's new dog, Teddy.
Oh, Teddy. So this has come from supported living. So Sue and Ian had a dog called Stitch. They'd had for years. I think I'd seen Ian last week and he said that he'd had him for at least 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
definitely,
lot of dog years.
And Stitch sadly passed on, and they were absolutely gutted, really, really gutted. And they grieved Stitch, and then very quickly they were like, we need a new dog, like we're missing it. And I was like, okay. What we found, or what the team leader, Elise, she did a lot of work, but what we found was actually, instead of doors opening, it was doors closing on them. Like charities, basically, because they lived in supported living, they wouldn't allow the dog to come into supported living.
Oh, well. So were they trying to rescue it?
We were trying to rescue a dog, yeah, originally. And we just kept getting knockback after knockback. And then Elise came to me and said, I found a dog. The dog's in Swindon. And I was like, okay, so he's part of a charity. What is he? Oh, no, it's just a family. I was like, okay. And I'm going to go up and see him. I was like, okay. So she went up, came back. Yeah, I really think that Teddy is the one for Sue and Ian. And I was like, have Sue and Ian seen? Well, no, because he's in Swindon. And I was like, yeah, but actually that doesn't mean that they can't go. So I think at the time it was a bit like, Sue and Ian go all the way up. And I said, but if it was you or I,
we would go.
We would go exactly to see the dog and to see how the dog interacts. So I said, I'm willing. So myself, Elise, Sue, Ian, and another worker, we all drove up to Swindon to meet Teddy. And he was just, I can't describe to you how perfect he is. I mean, I'm not a dog lover, or I wasn't a dog lover. Teddy actually opened my eyes, and I now have a dog myself because because Teddy is just perfect. He is a cross Chihuahua with
little.
Well, he's quite a big, but he's got a Chihuahua face. But he just loves everybody. As long as you're throwing his ball, he's more than happy. And the family, so we keep in touch with the family to let them know how he is and that he's settled. And I think actually it's really bonded Sue and Ian. Like they are definitely mum and dad and have the love for our Teddy. So he already had big shoes to fill.
Yes.
But he's completely went past all expectations and very settled.
And I think I'm a dog lover. I'm a real dog person. And every time, unfortunately, we've lost a dog, we've said, we're not doing it again because we're heartbroken. We can't put ourselves through this. And I think the maximum amount of time might have been a month or so before we've had to get another dog because we're like, we can't have a dog in a house. And I think I've had a dog ever since I was a child. Yeah. And I think if you're a real dog lover, it is really hard to not have that dog in your house and in your family and in your life. So for them, it must have been, losing Stitch must have been...
Oh, it was awful.
Awful.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't they be allowed to have that void filled?
That's what we were
that's
saying.
What I love about supported living.
Yeah, that's what we were, that's what we said. Like, there's going to be more people coming in and out to make sure that dog, and Sue and Ian, we changed the rota so that they're out, they can walk him on every day, that there's something there, somebody there, or something that somebody can come in and grab him if they're not there. So Sue and Ian are going on holiday soon, but we've got a long list of people that are ready to take Teddy on his holidays. So yeah. It is very lovely.
Lovely.
You need to come and meet him.
Yeah, well done you guys for fixing it, finding a way.
I can't take any credit. It was Elise. Do you know what? If she was so persistent, and she got quite angry at me, I think, at times, because she felt like, I think she maybe felt I was trying to put blocks in the way, but I just wanted it to be right.
Yes, yeah.
Unfortunately, in supported living, when you have people come in and out, you need it to be the right fit. And yeah, Teddy has just been amazing. He does, when you're around there for a team meeting, all you have to do is just continually throw the ball all the time. And he's happy. He's a very, very happy dog.
Oh.
So yeah, good story.
Lovely. So every episode, we also have our myth that we try and bust. So this episode's myth is caregiving doesn't evolve or change as a profession.
This makes me very angry, really.
Oh. I've got so much to say. Surprise, surprise.
I just think how, after what we've heard today, exactly like to this meeting with Wendy, it has massively evolved. Massively. And for the benefit of the people that we are now supporting. And as we already said, we're always learning, aren't we?
Absolutely. I think when I came into the care profession 5 years ago, it was so different back then. But actually what was being done back then felt revolutionary. It felt different. It felt like it was new, and we felt like we were being person-centred because we heard all of the old stories of how it used to be, and we were like, but we're not like that. We're different. But you look now, and when I look back to those 24, 25 years ago, and I'm like, actually, what we were doing back then wasn't that person-centred. We thought we were being person-centred, but actually we've learned and developed so much. And I think when I look at my career and the things I've been able to achieve and things I've been able to do, we wouldn't have done those things, like the treehouse. That kind of thing wouldn't have happened 20 odd years ago. Whereas now it feels like it's the right thing to be doing. So yeah, I'm definitely not agreeing with this one.
No, definitely not. I definitely think it's another myth that we've busted.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Reasons to Care, the podcast from Diverse Abilities, Dorset's disability charity, all about what it means to work in care.
We'll be back again with you soon, so make sure you subscribe for updates. But in the meantime, don't forget to follow Diverse Abilities on social media. Check out our vacancies at diverseabilities.org.uk/careers, and we'd love it if you could leave a review if you've enjoyed this episode. Speak to you soon.
Bye.